Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of PEPTalk Productive Environment Podcast. The hidden cost of clutter, how it's affecting your money and your mind. I am Andrea Anderson, CEO of Productive Environment Institute. I am here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, and I'm joined by.
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And we are excited to talk to you today. First of all, I want to ask you guys a question. So, wherever you're listening and watching from, whether it's live or the replay, I want to know when you hear that, how it's affecting your money and your mind, the hidden cost of clutter, how it's affecting your money and your mind. Does that bring up a song? Does that remind you of a song? Okay. So, the song I'm thinking of, I want to know in the chat who knows who sang this song, okay, or who sings the song. I've got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Okay, who is that? Put that in the chat wherever you're joining us from. Who sings that song? So now that's in your head. I don't know. We're going to talk about the hidden cost of clutter, how it's affecting your money and your mind. And we have a couple of resources for you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you about it at the beginning because we have a colleague that teaches money. We, PEI, Productive Environment Institute, Barbara, myself, we help people organize their time, space, and information. And we're more, as you guys know, clutter, paper clutter, email clutter, yes, other stuff clutter as well. But we don't get into organizing your finances. Okay, that we stay in our lane. But we have a wonderful colleague that teaches that. And her name is Karen McCall. She is the founder of Money Grit. And she's been in business, I think, Barbara, as long as you have.
So we started just about the same times.
Yep.
We've been together.
Yep. She's an OG. She's original. And she's actually, if you're watching this, if you're happening to catch this pep talk with us live this week, today's Tuesday, June the 10th, and on Thursday of this week, June the 12th, she will be doing a webinar. So if you guys want to sign up for Karen's webinar, it's Money Grit. So it's productiveenvironment.com/Money Grit. And you can sign up for a webinar with Karen. Like I said, we stay in our lane. She teaches that, and we want to send you guys over to check that out. If money and financials are an issue, and we do see it, they are, Barbara, as you say, clutter is postponed decisions. And some of that clutter that we have is financial related.
Oh, yeah. And this is something really near and dear to my heart because if you've been around long, know that I don't talk about being naturally organized. And when I started my business, the very first person I hired was a bookkeeper because managing money was just not my thing. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce Money Grit to you because it was life-changing for me and for my daughter. For me, it was because I heard Karen say, once you do our program, you will love checking your numbers. And I can remember thinking, okay, now that would be a miracle. I've seen miracles, but that would be a miracle. It is true because I have used Money Grit. And it does make me want to check my numbers now because and one of the things we talk about all the time is progress starts with the truth. And it isn't so many people. And for me, for years, I was very good at looking at the truth of what I had already spent. What I wasn't good at and what I didn't have a tool for. We always say half of any job is using the right tool. What I didn't have a tool for was looking at what I was going to be spending, what I thought I was going to be spending, what I wanted to spend. So I didn't have, so she uses the term, they don't use the term budget, which, I mean, you say the word budget, put some in. Yeah, but not in my stomach. They use your money plan. And it is your money plan. We use productive environment game plan. That the term, we look at it the same way. We talk about the art of organizing as it relates to your information. Money Grit talks about the art of money management because there's a framework. There's a very specific framework, but there's so much flexibility within it. And it is joyous to be able to look at something and say, okay, here's what's coming up. Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
And biggest impact it's made for me is when I can see it, when I can look at the month or the quarter coming up ahead and say, okay, in order to do what I want to do, I'm going to need to have this much. It will generate me to make that extra call. If I make that extra call and I make that extra sale, that's going to help me. So it really does help you change your behavior as an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. I love that. It's motivating. Yes. Okay. Actually, and you and I were talking, there's a lot of Barbara-isms that come up related to money and managing your finances, similar to managing your time, space, and information as well. So we're going to actually go through a couple things. So let's just talk about this. Like, why are we talking about money? So clutter isn't just a space problem, right? It's a money problem too. So physical, you guys hear us talk about it all the time. Physical, digital, mental, spiritual, emotional clutter all have financial consequences, right? Whether it's late fees, missed opportunities, maybe you didn't get that email and it was an opportunity, or a bill, and then you got late fees because you didn't see it in the mail or whatever, or overspending because you can't find what you already own. How many of you guys have bought something twice or three times because you couldn't find it? You knew you had it. You probably thought, oh, I know I have one of those around here somewhere, but then you bought it again because you couldn't find it. And
that happened all the time back when I was doing homes. But then when I moved into companies, and within companies, we would do what we called a productive environment day or a productivity party. And it would be a day that everybody in the team would clear the clutter. And all the time people went, oh, this is where that is. Or we remember we had this, or oh, we had 3 of these. It was that happened over and over again.
yes. And so over time, that can silently erode your financial health. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that today. But I had asked a question when we first came on. I said, okay, because the title of this is The Hidden Cost of Clutter, How It's Affecting Your Money and Your Mind. And that reminded me of a song. As I asked you guys, who knows who sings a song that says, I've got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. And I said, post it in the chat. And we've got one. We've got a response.
Oh, yay, Tony.
You got it. You got it. So that song will be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. You are welcome.
I just want to say, I think for me, the biggest impact, and I think for a lot of people, is it's on your mind when you wake up in the middle of the night.
Truly. Yes, this is true. And that's what we talk about a lot, is like what you want to get into as a business person. We want to get into the conversation that you're having with yourself at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Whatever you're waking yourself up and you're thinking as a business owner, do you solve a problem that somebody has that wakes them up in the middle of the night? And so I think combining the organizational piece is so important, though decluttering and organizing what you have left so you can find what you need when you need it ties perfectly in. We all need to do that with our money, related to our money. So let's talk about, Barbara, those 5 hidden financial costs of clutter. Number 1, late fees and missed deadlines. So I'm just going to go through these and then we'll discuss. So late fees and missed deadlines could be like bills buried in piles, missed tax deductions, lapsed subscriptions. Okay. Have you ever forgotten that lapsed? I'm looking at the lapsed subscriptions. It could also be lapsed insurance. That's happened to me before, where my insurance lapsed because I had the renewal was in a pile. I had moved and hadn't gone through that pile since I moved. So that has happened to me. And that is a danger. It is dangerous, but it's also an expensive mistake. Have you guys ever had that where you have late fees or missed deadlines and it caught up with you later on?
Or it's also you mentioned subscriptions, another big cost of expense, which when you're using Money Grip, one of the things that comes up is it helps you figure out what you've done with the money. And, oh, I keep paying for that subscription, but I'm never using it. And if you're not actually looking at it, you're not looking at where that money's going and analyzing one against the other. One of our principles in Productive Environment Institute is you can have anything you want, but not everything. So once you get the picture of your finances, then you can say, oh, okay, I'm paying for this subscription, how many of those? And Andrea, you and I periodically go through subscriptions and you'll say to me, are you using that? I'll say, no, I'm not using it. And then we'll say, oh, we really don't need that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say, apply that, guys, to your email as well. If you're on newsletter subscriptions that you just don't read, go ahead and unsubscribe from those. We don't want you to unsubscribe from ours. However, unless you're not getting value, but if you're listening to this podcast, then you're probably going to want to stay on our list. I'm going to assume you're getting value. But if you ever get to the point where you're not getting value from us, then you can unsubscribe from our list too. But do pay attention to that. And Barbara, I've noticed the more I use my board for moving my actions, things that I need to do out of my email and into my task manager, which is in my board, the more I do that, and I've unsubscribed from people that I just never read, I just never look at their stuff. What it's done is it gives me space to read the ones I do want to read. Like I would skip over many because I was, oh, I don't have time for that. And now that I've unsubscribed from others, I actually do stop and read the ones that I do value. That
I think that brings up a very interesting part. We talk about emotional clutter. And I know for me, one of my big challenges is I love to be supportive of other people. And so I subscribe to lots of newsletters that are produced by other people, and they are people that I admire and respect and want to support. But what they're doing is not where I am in my business at this point. And I've found it was really hard to unsubscribe from those because I didn't want to hurt that person. But I realize how many times, and we've seen this with people, we have clients in our store program whose lives are paralyzed because they're taking care of other people's stuff instead of their own. That's emotional clutter. That's emotional clutter. When you are continuing to subscribe to a newsletter, not because you need the content, it may even be great content. Doesn't mean it's bad content.
Right.
It just means it's not something that you're working on at the moment. And maybe you've already accomplished it, or maybe it's not on your priority list right now. And when you keep that in your inbox, that brings up the guilt and all of that, unsubscribing it. So we always talk about how you have to go through the emotion. There is an emotion that I have to go through when I unsubscribe from a newsletter created by someone that I admire. I've got that many times.
Yeah. Now, there is also a trick. If you find that like you said, if you don't want, you're not reading it now, it's not this season in your life, then, and I have some of those as well, but I don't want to unsubscribe. So what I will do is I will archive it, but that adds an extra step to my email processing. So you can actually set a rule, depending on what platform you use. You can have a rule that skips the inbox and goes straight to archive. And then that way they don't see you unsubscribing and then their feelings are hurt. But it's not in your but it's there if you want to read it. It's there.
That's something I taught when I was teaching a sales team about email. And one of the issues would be they would have emails from even their boss or a higher up or somebody that they really didn't want to read, but they didn't put away. And I taught them exactly to do that. Make it a rule so it goes in. So then if that person calls you or you're going to see it, you can quickly go over there and pull it up and read it before you go. So that's the trick. That's the art of organizing information. We've talked about the art of organizing physical information. And now Karen with Money Grid is talking about the art of organizing
financial information. Exactly. All right. So we talked about the song, My Mind's on My Money and My Money's on My Mind. Okay. Tony got it right. And then she said, there's another song, You're Always on My Mind. Have you on, Tony, so you can just sing to us. Okay. We'd read our head all day. The number two hidden reason or hidden financial cost of clutter is duplicate purchases. I talked about that very briefly. So buying items or tools that you already own, but you can't find them. So that's costing you money. Anything to add? That's Hemphill's principle, Barbara. If you don't know you have it or you can't find it, it is of no value to you. And you go out and buy it again, and that costs you money.
Exactly.
And anything to add to that?
No, but the other side of that is sometimes we keep things that we're not using because it might be useful someday. And then that ends up being clutter. So that's when you want to apply what we call the art of wastebasket, which is what's the worst possible thing that would happen if I didn't have this? If I did get rid of it, and get rid of it may very often mean blessing somebody else with somebody
That's
that
right.
really wants it. And then I can buy it again. So I have a beautiful story about that. If you were on our 47th anniversary celebration, we talked about Clarence, my stuffed tiger, which
Mm.
I had for years and years. And I gave it to a friend of mine for her granddaughter. And it was gone. I hadn't thought about it. And I thought, oh, it's over. Angie has it in her house. So Angie brought it back. So Clarence came back to my house for a week. And now
Oh,
back to Sophie's house again.
I love that. And I had shared that I bought an identical twin Clarence and named him Clarence. Also, it was my Clarence. And Barbara, I didn't remember what I did with mine. And I was telling Demetrius yesterday, we were on our way to go to see my mom, and I was telling him about yours. And he goes, "Oh," he goes, "You gave that to Kendall." And I totally forgot. I gave it to Kendall, and then Kendall's mom actually took it to the daycare that she worked at. And so he had a whole new life with a bunch of children at a daycare. So I had forgotten all about that. So I
And
found out
see,
where mine
what a
are.
beautiful
Mhm.
story about how you can bless other people with stuff. It
Yeah.
was so neat. I talked to somebody on a webinar a while back ago where they had kept their children's baby carriage and car seat and all that for 30 years. Now it's not valuable to anybody because now it's outdated. It's not safety protected. And so she
Mhm.
said, all those years it sat in my attic and wasn't used. Whereas if I would have given it away, it would have blessed somebody else. And I think that's
Mhm.
true so often.
Yep, yep. So think about that. If you're looking for something and you can solve the problem of looking for things once you have a good finding system, and which is a big part of what we teach you if you do want to keep things. And we teach it with paper and email and, working related things, but it can also work for a closet. If you're putting things in a storage unit or a closet or a garage, you can index that. You can create a file even though it's not a file, it's a file index for what's in that closet. So if you're looking for that crock pot that you just know you have, but you haven't thought about it or seen it in a year, you could go to your system and type in crock pot. You can actually type in crock. You don't even have to type in pot, and it'll pop up and tell you that's in the closet, top shelf, left side. So
We
you
have lots of people who've used it to inventory the stuff that's in offsite storage or the attic or their safe deposit box. It's wonderful that if you're very using them these days, but if you have a safe deposit box, but you don't know what's in it, that,
Mhm.
that's not very helpful. And it's something you could have, and it's actually on your phone if it's on your shortboard. So
That's right. That's exactly right. I got to share Kathy's comment here. Kathy Music says, "Our minds are a powerful tool for good or not." Staggering.
amen to that.
Yes. I want to share again before we go to the next one. So we've had a few more people join us live. That Eds, if you'll put back up the website, our colleague Karen McCall, founder of Money Grit, is having a webinar this coming Thursday. So if you're happen to catch this live or in the next couple of days, you can go to this website and it'll take you to a Zoom registration. So you can sign up and join Karen's webinar. All right, let's talk about number 3. Lost time equals lost income. Okay. So time wasted searching for that crock.
Or shopping. Okay, another one. You talk about it related to money. How much time is wasted shopping for different kinds of things, or either physically shopping or online shopping or things like that?
Mhm.
It's a big
Yeah,
issue.
that's exactly right. Lost opportunities or missed client follow up. That's a huge piece. So if you didn't get that email or you went to that awesome networking event, but then you misplaced the stack of business cards that you got there, or you didn't process them, that's missed opportunities.
I remember many years ago now, it's been probably 15 years ago, I was honored to be a part of an award here in the North Carolina area. And I must have received 20 letters from people congratulating me on the award, fancifully. But I could really tell it was really just like connecting, and they would always say, "I look forward to being in touch with you," or "I'll send you something," or whatever. So one of the things that we teach in our system is to have either a paper file or a digital file, whichever you use, that says waiting on response. So I literally put those, in those days they were papers, and I must have had 20 of them. I put them in the waiting and response file. So that if somebody did call me, I could pull it out and read it. I would remember what it was. One person out of all of those letters called me.
Mm.
And I think what a waste of time,
Mhm.
energy that was, and a lost opportunity, because if they had called me back and we could have had a conversation, they might, I'm pretty gullible sometimes, I might have sold something.
Yeah.
They wasted it, and that happens so often. And then client follow-up too. And morning, I was on a webinar with somebody who designs websites. He was saying that people would spend thousands of dollars to have a website built, but then they didn't keep it up. So when there are upgrades and security issues and things like that, and I said to them that one of the ways that I vet somebody, whether it's just a colleague or a company, is I look at their website to see if the copyright's up to date.
Yeah.
And if it's not, that's a sign. That's a sign that they're not being intentional about
Yeah.
what they're doing. So we talked about how it's important to build in, and in our 5 steps, we talk about our 5-step process, and step 5 is sustain your success. And what he was saying was the majority of business owners do not do a good job of maintaining their website. And they invest thousands of dollars and in some case hundreds of hours, but then they don't go back and keep it up. And that's part of what our sort of success program addresses, the areas where you are struggling. So it's
Mhm.
like one area fixed, but now this one's new because it always, something new is always coming up. So we want to help you not only be successful, but sustain your success.
That's right. All right. Number 1 of 5 is late fees and missed deadlines. And these are the 5 hidden financial costs of clutter. Late fees and missed deadlines. Number 2, duplicate purchases. Number 3, lost time equals lost income. And number 4, storage costs. And storage costs are going up. So paying for physical or digital storage to manage clutter. So we had a little bit more leeway and it's not as costly in the digital clutter world, but those storage facilities are making a lot of money because we're just postponing the decision. We're getting it out of our house and we're putting it in storage. And there are times that is absolutely needed. There are reasons that you need to do that, but how much think about your monthly payments if you're doing this now. How much are you paying for stuff that it's just in a box, you didn't even have the chance or take the time to go through it and say, "I don't need this anymore. I don't want this anymore." And as Nancy says, hold on, let me share Nancy. She said, "God says there's enough, pass it around." So how much stuff is sitting in storage that you're paying for that could be passed around to someone else that could benefit from it, right? So
So I a story about a storage unit. My son, who has through the years been someone who's been a keeper of things, and actually when he was 16, he's 50 now, but when he was 16, I said to him, "I'm going to close your bedroom door. And if it doesn't smell or crawl out, I'm not going to say anything because I'm tired of bribing, cajoling, rewarding, whatever." Then he joined the Marines. And I told him before he left that whatever he left in his room, I would be the end of it. I could do with whatever I wanted. He didn't deal with it. And I walked in the room. I spent 3 days crying in his room because I couldn't bring myself to throw away the things that he had kept because I was grieving his being gone and feeling guilty and all that. So I did put a lot of stuff in the storage room.
Mhm.
At first, I kept it in my house, but then we left that house and we were building a new house. So we moved into a very small house while we were in the middle. So I was paying for it. Then he was home from the Marines and I said, "Okay, this is it. I've paid for this storage unit." And so I took him there thinking he'd say, "Oh, look, I found this. Oh, I look." Hardly anything. All he wanted, he could carry in his arms. And I thought, I have paid all of this money for this time it was like 3 years storage unit because I wasn't willing to go through my own. I was taking care of him more than I was taking care of himself. And he was an adult. By that time, he was an adult. And if he had
Mhm.
decided not to then that I should have let that go. It was a very painful lesson, and a lesson that we have seen hundreds and hundreds of times with people in storage units.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like I said, you had a reason. If you've got a reason, and I think if you're intentional about having a storage for a temporary period of time, if it's not, you don't want to just be paying forever and ever. So we actually have a client now. I have to quote her. I have to give her credit. She gave me permission to use it in my book. So I think I'll have permission to use it on this podcast. Her name is Gayleen. And she said something that I just absolutely love. She and her husband have a goal of, they have a very specific reason that they're decluttering their entire home. They have a very specific reason. And we discussed that there may be a transition period where a storage facility is used for a very specific amount of time, not forever, not indefinitely. And they're highly motivated and working toward not having to put a bunch of stuff. They're trying to keep that as small as possible, but still being able to use it. So that is the plan. And she said something the other day. We were talking about postponed decisions, and they were going through 40 years of stuff in their home. And I was congratulating on her on being able to let some things go that were very difficult for her to let go. And she said, we have to, how did she say it? We have to get rid of it sometime. Why not this time?
Ah,
And I just love that. We have to get rid of it sometime. So why not this time? Because she knew the time is coming that it has to go.
yeah.
And she realized she was holding on. Let me just hold on a little longer, a little longer, a little longer. And then she told herself, why not this time? And
That's great. Oh, Gayleen,
I know y'all are listening to this, Kathy. You listen to all of them. So I'm quoting you, Gayleen. And she did give her permission to put in
that is so great. Why not this time?
Well, we have to do it. So if you think about that with anything that you're procrastinating on, to do it sometime, why not this time?
I love it.
Okay. So number 5, speaking of decisions, reduced decision quality. So mental clutter causes impulsive or delayed financial decisions. Isn't that the truth?
And I don't think it's just mental clutter. It's all kinds of clutter. And one of the things that we've noticed, you know how you watch for patterns when you're working with clients. And one of the patterns that we've seen so often recently is when people are in success or they're working with us, and the phrase we hear over and over, I feel so much lighter.
Peter.
I can't, it's like this theme that's been, it's the same with money. When you know the truth about your money, progress starts with the truth. So even it's far easier to deal with the truth about money, even if it's not good news, but then you can do something about it. If you don't know the exact truth, you don't know exactly how much money you owe, or you don't know exactly how much money you're spending, it's very difficult to fix it. So you can't fix what you don't know.
Valuable lesson right there. So as we wrap up, the emotional toll of clutter, avoidance increases anxiety. True. Clutter leads to shame and inaction. True. And organizing brings clarity, confidence, and control. So just start, Barbara and I were talking about, just start in a small, tiny little action. Start, even if it's just the junk drawer or the stack of bills that have come in this past week that you don't want to look at yet. Just find some little area. And just a couple of things you can do is do a clutter and money audit. So where has clutter cost you money recently? As we've been talking, has anything come to the surface where you're like, oh yeah, I did just buy this again, and then I found the other one, whatever. Where has clutter cost you money recently? And where are you avoiding financial tasks because of clutter? Maybe your bill paying space is cluttered. Maybe you normally pay your bills on the kitchen table or dining room table, but it's got a bunch of stuff on it, or your desk or wherever. Maybe that's keeping you from dealing with the bills, right? So we want to just have you choose one area to clear. Just one area to clear. Use our file. Nope, we're not using file like toss anymore. The art of organizing. Go clear that space with, does this need action? Do I need to do something with this? Do I want to keep this for future reference or can I toss it? The
I
art.
mean, that applies. We're talking about managing money, papers related to all the papers or the digital documents related to money come in those categories as well. So there's action is like, this is the bill that needs to be paid or the conversation I need to have with the vendor or whatever. And then reference is the ones that I want to keep. And of course, the reason I wrote the first book, Taming the Paper Tiger in 1988 was the question, how long do you keep? So you need to have a system for keeping. And then in some cases, you can toss it. And my best example of that years ago, I had a client who literally went and had garbage bags full of receipts. And a lot of them were receipts from the gas pump, that kind of thing. And I went, what are you doing with those? Nothing really. And so one of the things we did was he stopped. He says, when it says, do you want a receipt? Say no.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of that before because if they say, do you want a receipt? Before you say yes, think about what am I going to do with that receipt? Do I really do something with it? And if you're concerned about the environment, it's another reason to take care of the environment because you're not printing out something that's going to be thrown away anyway.
Amen. There's your tip. That was worth it. The whole thing right there. Say no. You don't want the receipt unless it's business related. All right, guys. And so if you'll put Karen's link back up there again, productiveenvironment.com/money grit. If you're listening to this in time, she is doing a live webinar on Thursday. You can get the time and everything when you go to that link and sign up on her Zoom link. But start thinking about that and getting your finances in order as you're thinking about getting your paper and your email and the rest of your life in order as well. And we do also have an event coming up towards the end of the month. Just stay tuned. We'll actually, once we've got the sign up page set up for you guys, we'll post that link in the description of this video as well. And if you're on our email list, you'll get that. In the meantime, you can actually check out a free training. If you're new to us, go to lesscluttermorelife.com. Go in there. There's a 12-minute training and you can watch it, the 12-minute training. Then you'll make sure that will ensure that you get the invitation to the workshop that Barbara and I and our team are doing at the end of the month that you're going to definitely want to be a part of. We're going to tame our paper tiger together. So you're going to want to hear about that. So make sure you go to lesscluttermorelife.com. Make sure you're subscribed to our email list so you get that invitation. And in the meantime, between now and Thursday, productiveenvironment.com/money grit. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
See you on the next one.